Hello, and welcome to another Barn Explorer. Today we're exploring the Nesset family. Picture Postcard Farm. It's a long ways back here in the woods. It's a long walk. This barn is just an absolute beautiful barn. The Nesset family had been here for a long time. So you're in for a real treat here. This place is a time capsule. This farm hadn't been touched since probably the 30s. That's that beautiful barn being built. And pulling stumps, always stumps to pull. Now, as old as this place looks, this is one of a very few left like this anymore. You won't see too many more farms like this. There's a spring harrow. Yep. When I was a kid, I would put hay in barns like this. Or I would shovel out calf pens in barns like this. But those barns are all gone now. Now this is the Nesset family. This is POL, fuel. They'd take those 55-gallon drums into town and fill them full of gas. They'd bring them back and put them in there. That was fuel for the tractors, fuel for the equipment. Oil and grease was all kept in there. And this old shed is all built out of cedar rails. That's all cedar. Somebody had to sit and split each and every one of them to make a board out of it. Now, this technocracy, it's kind of a strange thing. It was a movement in the 30s, early 40s. They believed that the businessmen or politicians should get out of it and let scientists and engineers make the decisions. But it was all over with by the late 40s, into the Depression. Old fencer. So the barn's been raised. The timbers were rotted off at the ground, and the barn was starting to sag. So the land trust came in to save the barn. They reworked the roof, most of the loft. They righted the barn, saved it. The barn was built in 1902. Been there a long time. Now this, I think, was a bunk trailer for hauling poles or logs. And then somebody put sideboards on it and turned it into a utility trailer. Still hauling firewood with it, gravel, whatever you need on the farm. It's a big barn. And see, I think this might have had a hay trolley in it. Went right down the center of the peak. So they would bring the hay in here on wagon, and the trolley would drop the teeth down, and they'd pick the hay up and drop it inside the mound. Or maybe they didn't. Maybe they forked it. Be an awful lot of work. But those people worked hard back then. Now this part of the barn is probably the original. I think these were all horse pens, maybe. They got some leftover shingles in the back from when they redid the barn. See, they reworked the loft and everything in here. But I think these were horse pens. I could be wrong. And this, I think, was a calf pen. Maybe they could put 2 calves in there. Now this is the original stanchion. This is a homemade stanchion here. This has been boarded up so it won't close no more, but you close it up and you put a pin through it. Homemade. They did a lot of things homemade back then. They served a purpose. They got the job done. They had to do a lot of reconstruction. They saved it. It'll be here for another 100 years. Now this barn's unique, especially for this area. You don't see very many barns anymore that have a wooden gutter. These old logs, these boards are the full length. That's an old water pump there. It worked off of a belt. Maybe hooked it to a small motor. It would pump water. They'd use it for irrigation, or maybe pump water into the cow's water trough from the river or a well. I was looking at this gutter, and I couldn't tell, but I think it would daylight right there. I couldn't see them. Well, maybe they'd shovel into a wheelbarrow in here, but a lot of these older farms, they just pushed it out the back and shoveled it from outside. These some old boards, old wood. And the gutter's been lined with with whitewash, because whitewash is pretty durable. Help keep the barn clean. See, they reworked the inner walls and everything. All new wood. They did a beautiful job. They preserved the barn's integrity and kept it to original design. The Nesset family built this barn themselves. And the lumber that built this barn was cut right off this place. There had been a sawmill on this place originally. They did a beautiful job. I'm admiring their handiwork. This video is going to be a little longer. There was no way I could show you everything in 15-20 minutes. I'm sorry. I hope you enjoy the view and the tour. I could hang out all day in here. I really could. So some of these boards are whitewashed and some of them aren't. I'm thinking when they remodeled the barn, restored it, these got stripped off and then they built up the wall and then they put them back up. So these whitewash boards might have faced the other direction. Just a guess. They did do a beautiful job. You think about the time period this barn was built and the fact that the people built it themselves. This was a massive barn. This was a big barn. So you see the new ladder, and then you see the old one over there against the wall. Now this I would call the new parlor, because it's got store-bought stanchions. And it has, it must have been a Raptor for something. But it has water trough. So the water pressure keeps that valve up. The cows poke their nose in it and they fill it full of water, they get a drink. But he's got the water line on the bottom, on the floor, which is kind of odd. Because that's where it would freeze. Most of the old barns that I seen, the water line was over the cow's head, up above. That one got broke off. Still see the whitewash on the timbers here, the stanchions are. See, whitewash was a lime and water, a few other things they'd added, calcium, and they would lather it on, and it kept the bugs down, kept the place clean, sterilized. They milked about 20 cows. That's about all a guy could milk by himself. I don't think they ever had a milk pump here. I don't think they ever had any kind of vacuum pump. They definitely never had a milk line. This is a grain bin, and it goes on both sides. So they could either put bags of grain in there, or they would dump grain in there and then scoop it out and feed it to the cows. See, they redid the inside walls too. This barn was probably in pretty sad shape, and they saved it. I'm glad they saved it. Now let's see them turn this place into a park and open it up for people to come and see. See, they had a wooden gutter down this side. And the stanchions. And barns are always full of treasures. All kinds of treasures. One thing missing though, all the stuff that would be stacked on the windowsills and down the wall mounts. You know, empty cans of tobacco, cans of bag balm, tools, fencing parts, all that stuff probably got moved when they restored it. You just look through and you see individual things: a skillet, a meat grinder, a broom, folding chairs, chicken wire. More technocracy emblems. They were big into this. I kind of see their point. Get the politicians out of it and the businessmen out of it and hand it to those that know what they're talking about. Well, this must have been an oil stove. Stove oil. Probably come right out of the house. It's a huge barn. See, more technocracy, signs. They were really into it. See the old wire? It's probably wire for the fencer. Hooked to whatever wire they had around the field. See, they raised the whole barn up. They poured the cement in place and then re-leveled the barn. They saved it. Now that there picks up hay out of the field. It's a hay lift. Some of the earlier ones were pulled by horses, late 1800s, early 1900s. And this one here was probably the next version because it's made out of galvanized. See, that front axle is lifted up so it would straddle the windrow, the hay windrow. That hitch would hook to a tractor. And you pull it along. And down in here you'll see little tongs. And that would pick up the hay. It would pick up, and these cams would work these boards back and forth, up and down, and it would push the hay up to the top of this thing, all the way to the top. It just walked the hay up. And then the hay would drop down the other side, drop down up there onto the hay wagon. And two guys could be forking that pile of hay to the front of the wagon, pulled by horses or tractor or whatever. The whole thing was worked by gears and chains. This was high tech, and this one's a John Deere, so it was a fancy one. This was high tech stuff. It didn't last long though, because wasn't too long after this was built or made, they were already building hay balers. So this was for loose hay. Hay balers replaced all of that. That's how you would load loose hay onto a wagon and bring it to the barn. Equipment shed. All kinds of neat stuff. So this here is part of a sickle mower. It would lay down flat. And that's how you would mow the field, mow the grass. It had a blade that would work back and forth in there. And it would just snip off the hay like scissors. In fact, that's the bar in the back, leaning against the back wall. Now, Tom worked for a short time up in Alaska as a whaler and a fisherman. So here's a little bit of remnants of that. Window frames from the barn. There's an old cultivator. So that was probably pulled by a horse, and the farmer would steer it. And this old tractor, this thing got a workout. It ran a buzzsaw for cutting firewood. He probably did everything on the farm with this one little tractor. Probably mowed, raked, and then picked it up with the old baler or with the hay lift. See, there's the bar. The sycamore. All kinds of stuff in here. Move across the barnyard. See a chicken coop over there in the corner. Now this was his work shed where he built his projects. And that's an old drill press, hand-operated drill press. No motor. One hand cranked it and the other hand lowered the bit. Been a few years since I've seen one of them. See, even the chicken coop got some remodeling. I don't think the coop is anywhere near as old as the barn. I think this coop was probably built in the 50s. But they jacked it up, squared it up, poured new blocking under it. Try to peek in here, but my camera won't focus. It focuses on the screen and not what's inside. Just treasures, old farm treasures. A couple of more little sheds, and one of them was what they would call the milk house. Except this milk house didn't have a tank in it. When they were milking cows here, they milked cans. So there's a cooling system, part of it. There's some of it missing. But cold water would trickle down through that pipe. That's how you'd cool the milk down. Those are anti-cues. Now this was how they would filter the milk. This would sit right down into a milk can and they would pour the milk into it through that. Sometimes they'd have like a piece of material or rag or cotton in there. This old bucket here, this is how you fed baby calves. It had a nipple that stuck out one end. There's a nipple still in the bucket. It would hang on the fence, hang on the side. You pour the milk in it and the calf would suck the milk out the nipple like it was getting it from mom. Take a look around in here. So a milk house in those days would have been a little more organized. They quit milking cows in about 62. And the one story I got was because the milk truck wouldn't cross the bridge no more. And they did a little bit of moonshining back here. I don't think that's the stump in the picture, but I think the stump was probably down here in the low part. I don't know why they didn't build a bank barn. Now this is the road to the house, and this bridge, you can see the elk have been using it. You see the elk hoof prints scuffing up the bridge. The elk have been in here. Elk all over this valley. They're everywhere out here. A little stream, it doesn't look like much now, but once upon a time it was a going concern. And I imagine with all the flooding and all over the years it's filled in. Now I know this is Barn Explorer, but I really want to show you the house too. Thinking something must have been built over here at one time. Something was in there at one time. Another building. I'm looking at this gate here, and I'm wondering, how many years has it been since that gate has been opened? It's a beautiful house. The house was built in 1887 by the Nesset family. And the Nessets were the ones that sided it, finished it out. So inside this house is a cabin, pretty much. Now, Tom wasn't born here. He was a little boy when he came here. There was one child that was born in this house, but she passed away when she was 5. Now, there was a sawmill on this place. Ferguson Lumber Company was the ones logging the ridges all around this. It's a steam mule. That's how they brought the logs in. It's an actual crew. That's a picture of the actual Ferguson crew there. I think the mill might have sat back here, because the river's right over there. They would need water. Now this old latch here, I think Tom built himself, and he was pretty proud of it. You think about the ingenuity to build this old latch in front of this old garage. And who better to explain how it works than the man himself? So the punk kid's got to take a shot at it too. Tom passed away in 92. But before he passed, he signed his place over to the Land Trust for conservation, protection. His legacy is the farm that he grew up on. It's a beautiful place out here. I'm hoping to see them turning into some kind of park. Well, thank you for coming with me. Sorry this was a long video. And thanks to the Nesset family and the Land Trust. Please subscribe.